Today's controlled assessment conference fair is about your success. By the 22nd of March, you need to have hit your target grade for every controlled assessment. And the tracker sheet you've been working on with your teacher will help you plan that route to success. Make sure you fill it in. All of the spaces need to be accounted for so that you can say at the end of this lesson, I know exactly what I need to do in order to hit my target grade. And by exactly what I need to do, I'm talking about two things specifically. First of all, the skills. How can you make sure that your essays are good enough? And the logistics. When, where, who with, and for how long do you need to do these assignments? Make sure as you wander around the auditorium, you are picking up the relevant resources for that controlled assessment, and you're speaking to teachers, getting things signed and stamped where applicable so that you have a clear idea of exactly what you have to do in order to hit your goals. In terms of the skill side of things, I've got a few tips for each assignment very briefly. Let's say you did the creative writing task for the 21st century where you have to talk about 5 things that teenagers might feel are important today. Make your plan work for you. Plan to succeed. So take some time in crafting it. Let's have first of all a skeletal paragraph by paragraph structure. Keep it simple. 5 things. I make that 7 paragraphs, an introduction and a conclusion, and your 5 things neatly in a row. Let's make it alliterative, so we have some sort of running theme, a semantic field. All of them will begin with F for me. We'll go for food, opportunity to get your sensory language, your 5 senses, references, etc. Football, there you go for your tactile imagery and your superlatives. FIFA is important to me. It's probably important to a few of you. I'm talking about the game, not the world governing organisation for football. Finance, money matters, doesn't it? It matters to most people, so there's another one. And finally, the final F from my 5 Fs is friends. I'm sure there's a lot that people could say about friends, so that's just a random example of how to get a very simple structure. Once you've got your skeletal paragraph by paragraph structure, think about A star and A words. Have a word bank full of words that you're going to use correctly in order to demonstrate a wide vocabulary. Get at least 7 or 8 in there and weave them into your writing. And devices. You won't be able to use them all, but it doesn't mean you can forget them all either. So take your name, take the letters from your name and get them to represent at least one device you're going to use beginning with that letter. If you constantly get low marks for spelling, punctuation and grammar, warm up beforehand, do some exercises online, plan to use wide varieties of punctuation such as colons, semicolons, etc. and you're away. Important tip for mice and men, take it beyond PEE, go for PEEE, because people aren't talking about language enough, and this structure guarantees that you will. With the point, you state something about the text. With the evidence, you provide a quote that proves the point. Then you'll probably begin your explanation with this shows or this conveys, and you say how the quote proves your point. Now we get to the specifics of language. Don't talk about anything else. Take a word or phrase from the quote you've just used and comment on its effect. Furthermore, the use of the word, the phrase or the technique is effective because it brings to mind, it makes you feel, etc. And finally, the expansion. You can compare within the text, between the text, or give a personal response. Do that several times in a row in mice and men. For spoken language, I know that you've got some great transcripts from last year. My advice is to freshen it up and make some new transcripts. Transcripts of you speaking in a variety of different circumstances. Irrespective of whatever task you're doing, it's still going to get you higher marks comparing the way you speak to the way these other people speak that you've studied, because that's on the mark scheme and that's in the assessment objectives. Watch a teacher. How do they speak? Do a transcript of the way they address the class. Get some perspective on the ways that you speak, not just in that situation where you're talking either formally or informally, but why not interview a friend and be interviewed by them? You won't speak in such a hurried way as to when you are doing your group random conversations. How you speak when you present or discuss or enrol is important. Reflect upon your speaking and listening assessments. Get notes on how the teacher talks to the class and to you personally. If you still have speaking and listening assessment tasks to do, here is one tip for each of them. First of all, for your presenting, make some cue cards. It guarantees that you look at the audience. Every time you move the card, you can look at the audience. Number 2, use alternatives. Don't start sentences with and, so, but, or then. If you're doing the discussions, get some good connectives. And for the third one, of course, stay in role. But how can you guarantee you stay in role? Well, you can practice to stay in role by staying in role at home, which is of course very infuriating if you're playing Lenny. Now we need to look at the checklist. By the end of this lesson, you must be able to say, I know what assessments to do, I know what skills I need to hit my target grade, and I know who I'll be working with, when, where, and for how long. Enjoy the fair.